What up, what up, what up? Welcome back to Sam Dunks, the weekly NBA show over at SlabStox. I'm your host, Sam. Today, we are about 3 months into the general overall market downturn in the sports card marketplace. I know you've all been watching it. I know you've all heard all about it ad nauseum by this point. But today, we are also just about 2.5 weeks removed from the beginning of the NBA playoffs. So today, I wanted to look at the positives and look back over the past month and see what type of players are actually on the rise over the past month or so. There have been some, not a lot, but there have been some, and I think we can learn quite a bit about what type of players have actually been seeing a market increase. So let's jump right into it. Hey, I forgot to do this earlier. That's why I changed my outfit here. If you want to use what I use, SlabStox Pro platform, the best in the industry, we're releasing real soon. Really soon. Sooner than ever before, literally. If you want to be among the first wave of people that get to use it, the first wave is going to be the people that pre-registered for the platform. If you want to pre-register, you still got time and you can get in on the ground floor. Go to SlabStox.com. First page, pre-register now. Scroll down, look at all that cool stuff, nice graphics, SlabStox, and then type in your email at whatever you are. And click pre-register. It's that easy. Get in on the ground floor really soon. We're going to be releasing. I would love every single one of you to be able to use it as soon as possible. So, slabstox.com, pre-register. See you there. Okay, so there were 97 players who started a game during the 2021 NBA playoffs so far. So what I did is I compiled that list. Went through all of them to find some meaningful start of the month, end of the month sales data. The period I was using was between May 6th and June 6th to try and see who's been rising over the past month. Obviously there's a lot of correlation with the NBA playoffs starting the middle to end of May. So I was hoping to see that some of these guys would actually be rising. Of course, we know that generally market-wide the whole market has been in a pretty big drop recently. But I was wondering if what type of players have been rising, and there have been a few. Now, I said a couple weeks ago, I said that I wouldn't be surprised if, come the NBA playoffs, that some of these guys actually the hype would start building again, since the market had been cooling down. That maybe some of the hype would send these guys skyrocketing. Wasn't very accurate on that account. In some cases, yeah, but generally I was pretty wrong on my principle. I did bring up 4 players. One of them I was correct in, which 25%, hitting 250, that's pretty good. If this was basketball, that's like twice what my senior year 3-point percentage was. So, pretty good stuff we're talking about here. 250, not bad at all. Obviously, that's tongue-in-cheek. No, there were a few players that were on the rise. And by the way, for my data here, since I was looking at 97 different players, I couldn't pull out every card and use too many parallels or anything like that. So I'm looking, pretty white bread, Prism Silver, Courtside, other select, Optic. Those are the types of things that I was looking up. So by and large, almost every single player was down, like we've seen in the rest of the market. But there were 4 players who were on the rise over the past month, and I'm going to come look at them with you now. The first player was DeAndre Ayton. If we're looking at his 3-month, we see a general downward trajectory, but over the past 1 month, he has been up about 10.5% over the past month of time. Of course, the playoffs started right around here. I think May 20th to 22nd, somewhere in that range is when all the teams started playing. And we've seen him on the rise in that time, up again 10.5%. Now, DeAndre Ayton, of course, he plays for the Suns. They did go and beat the Lakers in 6 games. Ayton, he was 16 points, 11 rebounds per game, hit 79% of his field goals. during that time. So obviously he was playing really well, really just a linchpin of the defense there in Phoenix that was causing fits for the Lakers. So he was really surprising a lot of people. And I don't know how many of you are on NBA Twitter, but could see quite a few people bringing up Ayton as a big surprise of this playoffs so far. Now, as a center, the excitement is pretty tepid at best, 10% of an increase. But still, when we see 93 other players, their cards I'm looking at, really not a whole ton of increase. It's pretty surprising to see DeAndre Ayton on the rise, and that is because he's been very good, and he's playing for a very good Suns team who has a chance to do quite a bit more, in my opinion. The next player I should pull up, Devin Booker, his teammate, over the past 1 month. Not the world's most exciting chart here, but over the past 1 month, he has been on the rise. A pretty big leap. Only a couple sales, obviously, but it went from 1150 to 1500. Obviously, Devin Booker's been very good and had a couple 40-point performances, put LeBron to rest. LeBron then doing the autographed jersey, handing it over to him, creating quite a bit of buzz, and I kind of assumed that most of that on LeBron's part was because the game before that he'd walked off the court at halftime, and he probably was trying to salvage a little bit of his reputation there, his image. Banana Boat partner CP3 was on the court too, but he bypassed him and went and gave it to Devin Booker instead. But you know what? People are noticing. People generally like Devin Booker's game. He's a popular young player, so not a huge surprise to see a little bit of a leap here over the past month for him, 1150 to 1500. So that was an increase. I should say that I did look up his base prism as well. There's quite a few sales available. While both of them weren't down, like majorly or anything like that, they were down. His PSA 10 Prism base rookie was down 8%. His PSA 9 Prism base rookie was down 15%. That could have a lot to do with it being Prism base, but compared to a lot of other players, so many other guys' Prism bases were down 50% or even 60%. So Devin Booker, another guy who at least his select court side has been on the rise. We could also look at Trae Young. Over the past 3 months, we see kind of a general downward trajectory through much of it, but once we hit the playoffs here, over the past month, he's been on the rise, and I think we all know why. Over the past month of the playoffs, he has 30 points, 10 assists per game. He's hitting 35% of his threes on about 9 attempts per game. He became the villain in New York. There was quite a bit of antics that he was doing to rile up the New York fan base. That was awesome. He just went and came out against the Philadelphia 76ers for his first second-round matchup yesterday. During that time, he was just nailing everything, at least in the first half. The Hawks showed a bit of their youth in the second half of the game and really kind of took their foot off the gas, allowed the Sixers to get right back in it. But the Hawks held on at the end of the game. He's walking past Nerlens Noel. Noel shoulder bumps him. The rest of his team just gathers around and starts attacking Noel. So that's the type of thing you really like to see from an up-and-coming star player. His teammates like him. His fans really like him. He has the ability to get under the skin of rival fan bases. That's all really good stuff. And you've just been so many viral clips and viral pictures of Trae Young. Not a surprise at all to see him on the rise over the past month. Up 11%, 11.29% since the beginning of May. If we look at his dip right here, right when the playoffs was starting, he was at 1340. Now he's sitting at 1725. That's even better. Now, he also had a card that I looked at that was down. That was his base courtside PSA 10 rookie card. That is down 34% during this time period. The last sale was for $810, which that's half price of what you're paying for a Prism Silver PSA 10. Obviously, the select courtside much more rare than the silver. In fact, his Prism Silver rookie, 2,058, according to the PSA Pop Report, only 125 PSA 10s of the select courtside. Trae Young is very good, and he's going to have a long time in this league as a player that a lot of fans really like. And you know what? I think his courtside's a pretty good buy right now, if you can afford that. And then the last guy I was going to look at was Donovan Mitchell. over the past 3 months, we see kind of a drop along with with mostly everything else. We could look at his 6 months of data tier 2. We see a leap there, in February, and then a drop off since that point. But over the last month, a general increase. Started the month at 1275. He's ending the month at 1886. That's his high point on the month overall. So we've seen, at least in some way, a general increase over the past month. So while a lot of the rest of the market has been dropping, we have 4 players who have actually been on the rise. And we can see with all of them why that is. They're all 4 young players, young, exciting players on good young teams that aren't part of the the old guard. We're not looking at the Lakers, we're not looking at the Knicks or the Celtics. We're looking at teams that in the Suns and the Jazz and the Hawks that generally have been kind of flown over by most fans for a long time. But now we got good young stars there. They're playing exciting basketball. This is what people like. In the NBA, we get tired of the same team winning all the time. I don't know if you saw that, that graphic of when, the rest of the teams that are in the playoffs, when was the last time they won a championship? The Bucks were the 3rd most recent in that in 1971. This is shaping up to be a playoffs that a lot of people are really going to be excited about. And I think you see in the 4 players who have been actually on the rise during the course of the playoffs that people are ready for something new, and we're finding that in some of these young stars right now. Now, I will say, since most things are dropping, it doesn't exactly look good in our pocketbooks or anything like that, but I do think it's generally healthier. Everything just can't be rising all the time. And obviously this has been a long drop off, which is much more than just a reset. That being said, for myself, I'm a big Dante DiVincenzo fan. I know he's never going to be even though at points I thought he was going to be a bigger player than he is, I know he's never going to be like a big time, card guy for most people. But for me, he is. If you look at him currently, his PSA 10 Prism Silver rookie card sitting at $53. Just hardly anything at all. $53, especially compared to what we've seen, in a lot of these cards. If I was paying $247 back last August when everything was just really skyrocketing, that was too rich for my blood. Now, I'm not buying Dante DiVincenzo to try and flip him and make a profit. I just like the guy. And right now he's $53 for a card that was 5 times that last August. Obviously, this guy that bought it for $247, he's not happy with it right now. But for me, since I was holding off on buying that, $50, that's okay to me. Same thing, Cameron Johnson. He's a good player. A lot of people just really like him. And you think about Suns fans that follow the game closely and are big Cameron Johnson fans. I know there are quite a few of those out there. His last base Prism PSA 10 rookie card went for $25.16 on average on 5 different sales. That doesn't even cover pretty much the cost of grading the card. So if you have a player out there that you like, and you don't necessarily know that he's going to be a future star or anything like that, but you believe in the player, and you can throw $25 at it, which doesn't cost a whole ton of money. And even though we're probably never going to see the quarantine like effect, skyrocketing effect of the market overall, like we did see last year, you could still buy a Cameron Johnson whatever card for pocket change, and potentially, if he builds a little bit of excitement in the next year or so, you could flip it for $40-$50, double your money. There's nothing wrong with that. It's definitely not as exciting as things were last year, but I think right now, with the way everything's just pretty much plummeted across the board, if you have a favorite player that you want to buy, you should be looking for those cards right now because they're very affordable. And if you find a card that you really believe in that's cheap, throw $20 at it, and potentially it might turn into $40 and nickel and dime your way up to being able to afford a card that you really, really like. So yeah, I wouldn't be throwing a ton of money at the market right now, just seeing the way things are dropping. But there are definitely buying opportunities. I think there's something that we can learn from that, and also seeing the types of players that are still garnering excitement on the card market. I think there's something that we can learn from that as well. So be smart with your money. Don't be throwing a bunch of money at Trae Young, Donovan Mitchell right now, seeing that they're on the rise, knowing that they're probably going to be dropping in a month. But you know that the market is there for those types of players, and even if we go in the offseason and they drop, you can probably assume that the market's going to be right there back for them as the excitement builds going into next season. All right, that's all I have for you today. I want to thank you so much for tuning in. We'll see you next week.